Hello, 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 and welcome to Alexa's Room, where we are not legal experts. We are not law enforcement. We are not medical professionals. We are just people who have opinions about all things happening in the true crime community, including the Karen Reed trial, which we have been covering every day pretty much since last week when I started this channel. Woo! So this is actually a little bit of a catch up. We did a voir dire day video yesterday. I will link to it in the description below, as well as uh, State Trooper Paul's testimony, the accident reconstructionist for the prosecution. Um, I mean that whole testimony was wild. My head is still spinning from that. I recapped it a little bit in the voir dire video that I posted yesterday, so feel free to check that one out. Today we're just going to focus mainly on the Cellebrite expert, as well as the state trooper Guarino, who is the forensic he's a forensic tech who also goes through a lot of the cell phone data and extractions, as well as being responsible for going through the car data, which apparently is non-existent. So there wasn't really a lot of useful information. His testimony got cut off towards the end, so it seems like he's going to be picking back up on direct tomorrow. So it's Wednesday when I'm recording this, so today, we'll be posting a video on Friday, recapping Thursday, and then we'll just start things back up again on Monday. So let's just dive in. I'm not going to play through everything just because it was really dense. Pretty much to sum it up, this first testimony, this is going to be a short video. This came from Ian Whiffen. He was the the decoding project manager for Cellebrite. And his testimony was pretty much to say it focused all around Jen McCabe. I couldn't believe how many times Jen McCabe was mentioned during this testimony when she's testified like weeks and weeks ago. And it only made me think, why wouldn't you bring this expert in closer to her testimony? Because by this point, yes, it's a big part of the case, so Google search, but now we're getting into accident reconstruction. Now we're getting into the actual uh, part of the trial, or hopefully the part of the trial where the prosecution is supposed to prove that John O'Keefe was struck by Karen Reed's vehicle. So I really wanted to see more of her cell phone data, John O'Keefe's cell phone data, as well as the car data, which again, like I said, didn't seem really to exist or something that they could access, according to Nick Guarino. But again, we're going to start with Ian Whiffen. His whole testimony was pretty much based on just saying Jen McCabe did make this Google search at 2:27. He did say that. He did testify to that. But he can't be sure if she was the one who deleted it, if it was just something that wasn't recorded in the system based on the different iOS updates and how they work, how the two technologies work together with the software. I think he talked about how Cellebrite has different versions of Cellebrite and how they work with different versions of iOS updates. Jen McCabe had, I believe, an iPhone 11. I'm not really sure what update of iOS she had. I know I'm horrible at updating my phone, so I can only imagine her being, I think she's like in her late 40s, mid to late 40s. I can only imagine. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just my speculation. Maybe she updates her phone frequently, maybe not. I don't know. But the big thing is whether or not she was the one to delete them, if that's possible for her manually to wipe out that data, that Google search from the system, or if somebody else did it. And this testimony kind of left me feeling like it's possible somebody did delete it. They just have to be highly skilled at it. And as we know from earlier testimony by Mr. Michael Trooper Proctor, which I also made a video breakdown of breaking down his entire testimony, which I will also link in this video description below. He testified, and when he was going through his whole big background of how much experience he has as a state trooper, very proud talking about his background. He mentioned he has training in Cellebrite. So, again, just my speculation, just my theory. It leaves the realm of possibility to believe that he could have. He could have potentially deleted that data for her, or her tech whiz of a husband, Matt McCabe. Again, my speculation, my theory. Let me know what you guys think after we dive into this. Melanie Little posted some really interesting feedback, so I'm going to actually start with her video. We're not going to get through this entire testimony just because it's a little dry, but this is a really interesting point that she brings up with the 227 search. And this is the crux of the testimony. It doesn't really get into anything too much deeper than that, other than, again, there's two ways to delete data. There's the manual user way of, say you mass select all the browsing tabs at one time. That could account for there being a missing record of multiple items being deleted at once on the manual level. On the system level, those records, those timestamps still exist as long as the system and the pieces of tech that are supposed to talk to each other the right way recorded them. So again, it doesn't really prove or disprove anything. If anything, it just opens the floor for more questions. So let's dive into what Melanie has to say
about for their scheduling. I mean, I know there's no court Wednesday, and it was full day throw for voir dire.
The live records from the browser state.db database.
May I approach on?
Yes.
I'm Walter C. to introduce the no objection.
Right, thank you.
Now we're turning to the witness.
Thank you.
May published after the jury. Well, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, so now they're going to pull it up on the screen.
I don't know who's saying off Tuesday, back Wednesday. Wednesday is a federal holiday, so the courthouse is not even open. It's Juneteenth. The jury may be off tomorrow because they're going to do the voir dire of the experts. But Wednesday is definitely a court holiday.
Also, the voir dire was like 2.5 hours, so they could have totally gotten the jury in, but
So I will go back and we will confirm that later. But let's stay on real time for now, eh? It's Juneteenth on Wednesday.
Now,
okay, here we go.
turning back to the browser DB database for this particular device. With regard to the timestamp and the last view time, what, if anything, do you observe and reference that depicted in this, and could you direct the jury's attention to it?
Yeah, so this timestamp is the last viewed time according to the
These are the
database
timestamps
itself.
over here.
It's already been offset so that it's in local time. This particular table, we can see there are records missing. Between records 4025 and 4031, we have
Over here.
4025 and 4031, we have 4026, 27, 28, 29, and 30 missing.
Okay, so there's a bunch of missing searches.
The timestamps that we do have here, some of them are separated by as little as a second or two.
Okay, so there's a bunch of missing searches, but I want to go over these with you. You can hear me, right? Okay. So at the top here, January 29th at 2022 is a login to my school bucks. That is school lunch accounts. I know that because we have that here too. So that's January 29th at 12:42 a.m. She's filling up her kids' lunch accounts.
I mean, I get why she thinks that's weird, but if you're drunk, like I do like weird stuff when I'm drunk too sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I have to pay that bill, and I'm just like randomly like paying a bill that doesn't need to be paid for like 3 weeks just because I'm drunkenly thinking about it. So I don't think that's that weird, but
And then we've got Family's Toolbox at Canton High School. That may be something like where you can go on like the parent portal where you can go on and get your kids' grades. And that's 129:22
she was probably
at 12:42
waiting.
a.m. So again,
She might have been waiting too for like this first thing to load, because I do that too. I'm always in and out of different tabs as well.
and she's like either on her way home. No, she's 12:45. She didn't leave there till 1:45. She's at her sister's house.
So she's still at her
Right.
sister's house.
And then she's looking at basketball
Drinking.
scores at Hockomock Sports on January 29th at 2 a.m. Okay, so she is looking at baseball scores. She's logging into PayPal on the 29th at 2:27 a.m. 2:27 a.m.
227:31, 227:33. So I believe it was an opening in Jackson's opening statement when he's talking about the Jen McCabe how long to die in cold Google search. I wrote the exact time down because 2:27 and 40 seconds is when that search was made. But if you look, and I'll even remove myself from this just so you can get the full view. 227:31, 227:33. And then it goes down to 6:29:55 on the 31st. So it skips an entire day. Which is also interesting because didn't she also scream out about how Karen Reed was yelling at her to search how long to die in cold when they found John O'Keefe? Wasn't that her testimony? So how does that, like, then why would that search be deleted as well too? Why is that missing? Because that would have been well after the fact. And that's not even here. Unless I'm completely missing something. But that definitely doesn't make any sense. And you're telling me you didn't search anything on this day? You weren't on your phone at all for that entire day from the 29th to the 31st? It's a little hard to believe. And where is that 2:27 and 40-second record? It's not there.
Which is the same time the Haas long to die in cold search is made. She's logging into PayPal. Who is she paying on PayPal?
That's also weird too. Like, who is she paying?
At 2:27:31. And then at 2:27:33, she's logging into Eastern Bank. What is Eastern Bank? Is that a local bank in Massachusetts?
Which is also weird. Like, did you? I don't know.
Okay.
Are you paying Brian
The next
Higgins?
search after that is not until the 31st, where she's logging into the meal train, which
paying
I'm
Procter? I
assuming
don't
is
know.
for the O'Keefe family to bring meals. Sometimes they set up a meal train for people who are grieving. And then on the 31st, again at 8 a.m., she's searching Boston police officer John O'Keefe dies after being, and that's an article that she's looking at. It probably says after being hit by a car, by his girlfriend's car. Okay.
But what was Karen Reed searching on her phone? I mean, so far all we know, and not from this expert, like, that's what I'm more curious about too, is like, what was she searching? If anything, what if anything? On her phone? Like, we already know. We already know the search exists. We know this. And I cannot wait for the defense's experts to just completely wipe the floor with this nonsense because, again, like, if anything, this witness doesn't confirm nor deny or support any theory proving that John O'Keefe was struck by Karen Reed's vehicle. There was nothing in this testimony. Not one bit of data. It was all focused around Jen McCabe and her Google search. And I get that's an important part of the trial and the evidence and the investigation, but, like, why not have this witness come earlier to testify around the same time as Jen McCabe? Like, I don't understand.
All right. I have questions.
Me too, girl.
Eastern Bank is there? Okay. Got it. But there's missing searches. Okay, so
paying?
we've got 421 on the left side, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and everything after 25, between 25 and 31 is missing. And guess what time search 25 was? 2:27. And all those other searches are missing until January 31st of 2022. Oh, great. I can't wait to see if he's going to say she deleted all those searches. Interesting.
Now, with reference to the how long to die in cold, that was record 4028, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so based on the records missing from this portion of the phone as far as that database, what, if anything, did you endeavor to do with respect to ascertaining what?
So first of all, the task was to try to recover the deleted messages. The deleted history records from browser state. So first of all, was reading the deleted pages, essentially, to find the records that had been deleted from this current version of the page.
May I approach Andrew?
Yes.
He's gonna approach.
That up in the fence?
Yes,
And do you recognize that document, sir?
I do, yes.
So what do you recognize that to be?
This is the same data source, so it's still browser state.
Last term that you use, what does that mean? I'm sorry.
So typically there can be lots of different versions of a page within a WAL file. So you may
Just
have several
jumped.
page ones, several page.
Just jumped and I didn't do that, so I want to hear what he said again.
It did jump.
This is the same data. So typically there can be lots of different versions of a page within a WAL file. So you may have several page ones, several page twos, and so on. What I looked at is doing is recovering the data where the records that I recover are different from each other. So if I recover the same record multiple times, I can ignore it. But if I recover the same record with a slight change, then I would show it in this view.
So they're trying to say because Jim McCabe searched house long to die in cold multiple times because she couldn't spell it right because she was intoxicated. So or buzzed. Sometimes my hand slips too, and I'm always misspelling stuff. So that's pretty much what he was set out to do. I think at some point he does talk about the defense's expert. Let's see.
Added and deleted for various reasons, none at the discretion of the user. It's a completely system-driven for a different type of data.
So this is good. So now he's talking about why certain data is deleted.
That's always being added and deleted for various reasons, none at the discretion of the user. It's a completely system-driven event to delete information from Knowledge C. So we can't say what was deleted from Knowledge C, but we can see that during the times of Safari usage, records exist within Knowledge C that indicate, or certainly appear to indicate, that nothing was deleted.
Guess who didn't have any
What, if
deleted
anything, were you
information?
able to find,
Guess who didn't have any deleted information, my friends? Thank you, Karina. Wait for it. Karen Reed.
Yep.
Karen Reed didn't have any deleted information. No, she didn't. And they took her phone when they went to visit her in Dighton at the fake time that Proctor told you or put in his report, which happened to be an hour and a half earlier. They took her phone. She didn't delete anything.
Nope.
Okay. She didn't Google how to hit a pedestrian in reverse at 24.2 miles an hour and make it hurt and hypothermia. And she didn't Google any of that nonsense. She didn't delete anything. This is insane that we are sitting here for days and days and days so that they can try and prove that the McCabes and the Alberts didn't do it. Therefore, Karen Reed must have. This is the theory of the case, right? What are we doing here?
I don't know. I don't know, but really, really freaking well said. So now we're gonna pop over to court TV. We're gonna jump to the next witness because it's just more of the same. Yannetti was the one who crossed him. It was pretty short and sweet. Um, Again, more of the same. So we're gonna go to Nicholas Guarino. He's the state trooper, a forensic expert. I don't know his exact title, but we'll call it out when we see it. Let me just find it. He was his testimony was a lot shorter. So he's the hot mic moment that maybe you guys have heard, not heard about. I actually have it pulled up. We'll just start there because this was probably, I mean, it's not funny, especially because we're talking about a man's life, and it's not anything to be funny about. But like there are moments in court, and I don't know how the jury reacted to this. I don't know if we'll find out. I imagine we would. I imagine they heard this, but maybe not. Maybe not. I heard that it's pretty loud in the courtroom in terms of like the air conditioner, and you'll constantly hear the judge asking everybody who gets on the stand, the attorneys even, to constantly speak up just because nobody can hear them over the AC. There's been times where they've had to turn off the AC. I don't know how hot it is in Massachusetts right now, but I know there is a heat wave going on. We just experienced it here in Nashville, and we got up to like 84 degrees in the morning. Like it was like 11 a.m. and already 84 degrees. So I can't even imagine sitting in court. Like you're already nervous. You're on the stand. Everybody's watching you. You're being filmed. And, people like me are on YouTube looking at every single thing you're saying and breaking it down. So in a way, I can't. I, I, it's an honest reaction. It's an honest reaction. I'm going to actually close out of this tab just so I can share it. Okay, we are here. This is the hot mic moment. I'm just going to back it up a little bit because it kind of comes up a little aggressive.
Mr. O'Keefe's.
Yes, it is.
Like so I first saw this actually, and I'll play back and blow this up a little bit bigger so you guys can see his face a little bit clearer. But I saw this originally on a short that Turtle Boy had posted, and I thought it was just like he's a funny guy. So I was like, there's no way this is like actually real. But I watched the live streams, and it's real. It's really him saying it. Let me know if you guys hear it too. But it sounds awfully like he's saying, "Kill me." Because now they're going to get to the part of the testimony where he's going to read through the text messages between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. I might start there and then like backtrack to the Lexus part. But again, pretty much what he testified to was they couldn't pull any data. Like all the data was corrupted. Like they couldn't access any data from her car, not the GPS, not the CarPlay, or Google Play. I think they said nothing, which is interesting. I don't know anything about Lexus cars. I want to do a little bit more research and see, but I did see a couple of comments from people who did say that it's not always the most reliable data, but even still, the fact that you weren't able to retrieve any data is interesting. And that for me is like the biggest piece of the biggest part of why this guy is here is to find out, and even with Trooper Paul too. Dude, that's why you're here. We wanted to see the demonstration. There was no reconstruction demonstration video. There was none of that. And I can imagine that when the defense calls their reconstruction, accident reconstruction specialist, there will be some kind of demonstration video because you're talking about all these things, but people need to see it visually. They want to know that you actually did the homework and you actually tested it and can prove that no, this could have happened. Because just talking about it, talk is cheap, especially when you don't know what you're talking about. So let's just play this back real quick.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could request
Like,
certain
that
portions of
is,
what's been marked.
and Lally's gonna make him read this private conversation between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. This guy who doesn't, like, he's not Brian Higgins reading his own text thread. This is a guy who just went through, just did his job. It doesn't sound like he did it very well, but he did his job, or maybe the best that he could with whatever Proctor gave him. Everything came to him through Proctor, it sounded like. And now he's got to read this text thread of a normal couple talking about the ups and lows of being in a relationship when he doesn't know either one of them from Adam. Like, it's so uncomfortable, and it literally was the biggest waste of time because it didn't prove anything. The only thing that was interesting that came out of it was the fact that we found out Karen Reed had called John O'Keefe 53 times January 29th. That was the only useful piece of information, and that supports the defense's theory more than the prosecution's theory. So we're going to backtrack a little bit, get to the part where he talks about the Lexus, then we'll jump back here. We'll get into a little bit of the text thread, and then we'll round out the video and call it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. They're at sidebar here.
A Dell laptop and an HP Pavilion all-in-one desktop, correct? Anything did you do with respect to those computers?
They were seeing to view the data that was on them
Now, when you say something was imaged,
until such time as the phone was supported, and then we could download it. I forget the exact number, but phone calls or an email to them.
cyber crime conference,
Yes.
and do you attend that on?
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where they talk about the Lexus. We're back at sidebar here. I know it was
All the
earlier.
data from that vehicle.
There we go.
And how is that sort of determined, or how are you able to ascertain?
Okay. So we are talking about the Lexus now.
The likelihood of trying to reattach them and get it to work again is very slim.
You're
The
just
last footage Burla and system, it was not supported.
I'm gonna probably
I
go
emailed
back
Burla.
actually further, because he's pretty much saying why they weren't able to get data from this, which it's just wild. I just want to bypass his part where he's talking about like his experience.
I currently work at the Norfolk District Attorney, correct?
And with respect to that, what, if any,
Hard here.
specialized role do you have within the detective unit attached to the Norfolk DA's office?
Yeah, I conduct cell phone forensics, computer forensics, and I also do sexual assault investigations.
Now, with regard to the electronic forensics, what, if any, specialized training have you received in that particular area?
I have about 300 or so hours at Cellebrite, CCO, CCPA, cell phone repair forensics, Burla motor vehicle forensics,
300 an hour.
Axiom magnet, cell phone and computer
I feel like
forensics,
that's
X-Ways.
kind of a weird
These are all different programs used for cell phone and computer forensics.
Like, why not say, oh, I've been using it for like 3 years or something?
Sir, at some point, did you become involved in the investigation involving the defendant, Karen Reed?
Yes.
Okay, so he gets pretty much right
With
into
respect
it.
to that,
This
let
is
me just
good.
ask you, at some point, did you become aware of an affidavit from a defense expert named Richard Green?
Yes, I have.
And sometime.
So they talked about this with the Cellebrite expert. Again, it kind of seems like interesting how they're using this witness for certain things that I feel like they should have utilized the Cellebrite expert for. But hey, whatever. I don't know what 300 hours means. Like that could be a year of using Cellebrite or being trained in Cellebrite. So in terms of like going through the cell phone extractions, like not really doesn't make me feel all too great about that, but
Following that,
Richard
did
Green
you
is
have
the
occasion
defense
to,
expert.
reach out to Cellebrite with regard to what had been posited by Mr. Green as in regard to 2 Google searches contained within Jennifer McCabe's phone?
He's going back to
Yes, I
Jennifer
did.
McCabe.
And eventually, at some point, did you have occasion to speak with the gentleman who came in here right before you, Mr. Ian Whiffen?
Yes, I did.
And so that wasn't Trooper Proctor that had reached out to Mr. Whiffen or had any communication that you're aware of with Mr. Whiffen, correct?
No, I reached out after the defense expert's findings were released, and I read his report.
And did you also have occasion to review a report from a Miss Jessica Hyde?
Yes, I did.
And with respect to those 2 reports,
Jessica Hyde was
what,
the
if any,
other
conclusions or opinions did you
expert.
come to independently in relation to those opinions of Ms. Hyde and Mr. Whiffen? Objection.
Sustained.
Now,
gonna speed this
Guarino,
up
you
for
had
you, Val.
mentioned that you've had specialized training in regard to something called BURLA, correct?
Yes.
Could you please explain to the jury what BURLA is and how is it used in criminal investigations in your line?
So Burla is a specialized hardware and software used to download the infotainment and telematics modules in a vehicle. So telematics module is basically like the SIM card for the car, and the infotainment system is your radio head unit that enables you to have Apple Play, CarPlay, or Android or
Yep.
Google Play for the vehicle.
And at some point, were you made aware of a search warrant that was authored in regards to seizing?
So he got off the
Ms.
Jennifer
Reed's
McCabe
vehicle?
stuff like
Yes, sir.
real
And just so
quick.
the record is clear, can you describe Ms. Reed's vehicle as far as what type of vehicle we're talking about?
Yes, it's a Lexus LX 570 SUV.
Lexus LX 570. I gotta look that up. I might actually have my wife on at some point when the defense talks about the car reconstruction specifically, just because she's been working on cars pretty much her entire life. So she has a lot more knowledge about it than I do. So she'd be a really good person to just talk. We've been talking about this case for the last week, and she's equally as frustrated as I am. So she'll have a lot of really good insight in terms of just understanding cars, mechanics, just her thoughts and opinions on it. So
And specifically on February 2nd, 2022, did you have occasion to remove that infotainment system from the vehicle pursuant to that search?
Yes, I did.
And once that item was removed from the defendant's vehicle,
So again, the infotainment, what they mean is the Apple Play, the CarPlay, etc.
After we removed it from the vehicle, it was brought back to Norfolk DA's office for data extraction, or attempt to.
and that data extraction, if you know, based on your training experience, sort of how is that conducted, or what is the process of extracting data using BURLA?
So depending on the system, it's dismantled. They have the specialized hardware that actually goes onto the motherboards of these systems, and we're able to pull the data. Or the other option, if that's not viable, is to do a chip off, where we have to basically destroy the motherboard and take the memory chips off the devices to try to get the data that way.
Now, with reference to this specific device, what, if any, efforts did you undergo in order to extract the information without using a chip off?
So at the time that we pulled the system, it was not supported. I emailed Burla and called them, see if they had a timeline of when this might be supported so we could get the data. We deemed chip off as a last resort, because it is a destructive process. So once those memory chips are taken off, the likelihood of trying to reattach them and get it to work again is very slim.
Let me stop you there for a second. When you talk about an item being supported, what does that mean?
Whether or not Burla has the ability to pull the data from that vehicle.
And how is that sort of determined, or how are you able to ascertain whether or not a particular vehicle, make, model, manufacturer is supported by the BURLA device?
They have an app, and they also have the tech support. But if you put in the VIN of the vehicle, or if you don't have the VIN, you have the make, model, and trim level, like limited or XLE or whatever, you would be able to go in and look it up and basically say, Burla will tell you, yes, it's supported for GPS points, or it's supported for diagnostic data, or whatever that they're able to get out of the vehicle. And they work with the automakers to get these get this data. So,
and approximately how many different types of if we're looking at sort of the entirety of different makes and models of manufacturers, if you know, so what percentage of those types of vehicles are actually supported and BURLA can actually extract information?
I don't know as of right now. It's a lot, and they're constantly updating it, so they are able to do more vehicles as time goes on.
Now, at this particular time, as you sit here
I'm
today,
really confident in saying that, dude.
The defendant was operating on January 29, 2022. Is that vehicle available or supported by BURLA at this time?
The trim level that the defendant had is not still supported. There is Toyota and Lexus support now, but it's not, unfortunately, for her model.
Now, you mentioned that you had reached out to the BURLA company.
I mean, so I believe her car was like the latest model of it, like a 2021. So I don't know. I would love to see like those email records though of you emailing the support to support that yes, you did reach out, you did try. Um so essentially what he's saying, there was nothing they could do to retrieve the data because Burler, the software I guess that they are using doesn't work with those types of certain types of vehicles.
For updates as far as the availability or when the defendant's vehicle might be supported, is that correct?
That's correct.
And about how many times and over what time period are we talking about that you reached out to ascertain?
Immediately when I did the extraction, I should say extraction, but when I took the system out of the vehicle, I had to reach out to Burla because where it wasn't supported, they actually had to send me tech diagrams so I could go in and, again, not destroy the whole vehicle as I just took those components out. Over the next, almost 2 years, year and a half of going back and forth with them with their support and their sales team.
And when you say going back and forth, how often?
Their sales team?
Usually every few months, I want to say every 3 months, give or take. I forget the exact number, but phone calls or an email to them asking.
I would love to see that.
Now, beyond that, are you familiar with a National Cyber Crime Conference?
Yes.
And do you attend that on an annual basis at least?
Yes, I do.
And with respect to that, what, if any, time at those conferences did you spend dedicated to ascertaining the availability or the supportability of this vehicle with reference to Burla?
So Burla has a booth at the National Cyber Crime Conference. I spoke with their sales team there. Their response was to keep calling Burla, keep pestering them, and they might actually get the support sooner than later.
Okay, so like you're literally talking to the wrong freaking people, dude, because I'm in marketing and like all the time when we get different emails, like I worked for a large SaaS company for about 6 months, and their sales team all the time would get questions about like tech, in product stuff that's not their scope of expertise because they don't know. They're just the salespeople. Like they're just selling the product. They don't have like a deep wealth of understanding. And sometimes, especially in these big companies where there's hundreds and even thousands of employees, there's no pun intended, the chain of custody or the chain of communication isn't always clear. Sometimes there's things that go out, like for instance, again, in the company that I worked with, we had sent out an email that included certain coupons and discounts. And then when the customers would reach out to the sales team, they'd have no idea what was going on. So it's very easy for things like that to get lost in translation. And those are not the people to be asking these questions about. So.
And again, were you ever able to ascertain or get the support to download the information from them?
No, unfortunately.
Now, at some point, were you able to download any information from that particular infotainment system from the defendant's vehicle?
And not from the infotainment system, but
Like how
Burla
does
released
it,
a new
Lally,
item,
how does this help you?
similar to a mechanic scan tool. It plugs into the OBD2 port, which is underneath the dash.
Like I feel like he's pretty much saying like, oh, well, we tried, guys. Like we gave it like the good old fashioned college try, and it's not good enough, man. Like I don't get what this isn't helpful.
So we're
at all.
basically, if a mechanic went in there with a scan tool to tell you why you have a check
Just
engine light,
leaving
this does something
more
similar.
room
So you plug it
for
in, and then it pulls the car diagnostic data from that.
And as far as the data that you received from that, what, if anything, did you observe?
Again, I got a
Nothing.
series of 14s was the numbers. It was no readable data. I reached out to Burla and asked them, I said, is there a reason why I pulled this data, but when I put it into the software, it's not telling me anything. It's not giving me any readable data. And they said they know it is diagnostic data, but they haven't got anything from Lexus to say these 14s, these codes mean this. Oh, they only know it as emissions.
So was Burla itself able to read that information and transform that sort of binary code into any sort of readable data for you?
Other than the number 14, no.
Now,
Like, did you report that
from
too?
there, what, if anything, did you do with regard to the Burla and the defendant's vehicle?
Was placed back into our digital evidence lab, and then we did eventually do a chip off to the device.
Now, with respect, to the chip off, that was done sometime in December of 2023, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And again, if you could expound upon a little as far as, can you describe for the jury sort of the chip off process, why you were reluctant to do it, and what's entailed in it?
As I
just
said
said
before,
that.
it is a destructive process. As soon as we do it, we take those memory chips off. It's applying extreme amounts of heat to the motherboards to take the memory off. That'll heat it. You lose a lot of the soldering and capacitors, anything that's on that motherboard. So, like I said, once the memory chips are taken off, it's going to destroy the board.
And as far as
And then
that,
you really
chip-off
can't
process,
recover
If anyone
anything.
was present with you, or if anyone assisted you in removing that or conducting that chip-off process with regard to the motherboard from the entertainment system from the defendant's vehicle.
I'm sorry. At the time that we actually did the chip off,
Yes.
yeah, it was myself, AG Speak, and Maggie Gaffney.
And who is AG Speak?
AG Speak has his own forensic company, I guess you could call it, for Burla. I could consider an expert in the field, former California Highway Patrol officer that exclusively handled stolen cars.
And who is Ms. Gaffney?
She was a defense's expert. She's the one who actually did the chip off, applying the heat and taking the chips off in our presence. And she, I believe, works for, I'm sorry, the name of the company escapes me at the moment.
Now, with respect to the information that you, Ms. Gaffney, and Mr. Speak were able to remove pursuant to that chip-off process, what, if any, usable information were you able to glean from that?
As I was told by AG, there was no data that was recovered off the infotainment system or the telematics module.
So
from
again,
the
what
chip-off.
does this prove?
And as far as
Nothing.
Ms. Gaffney, did you have any
Because you have
information
nothing.
as far
You
as,
have no
the
evidence. This
information
is
she
the
was
big
able to glean,
crucial.
read, or decipher?
No, once
This is forget the taillight, forget everything else. And I think this is why Lally spent so much time just trying to run out the clock, as I keep saying, on useless pieces of evidence that don't prove anything, like the glass cup, broken pieces of glass, random pieces of taillight that just magically kept appearing on 34 Fairview in the days after John O'Keefe was found. All the time spent on useless witness testimony, the Aruba trip. I feel like because he knows he has nothing, there's no data, so therefore you don't know. There's no retrievable data from her car, from her vehicle. Therefore, what can you prove? So you have to rely on the broken taillight. You have to rely on that BS testimony because there is nothing else. It's so wild to me. And even with the cell phone data, what was Karen Reed searching? Nothing. As Melanie Little called out in her video, right, that we saw earlier. What was Karen Reed searching? Nothing. So what is the point of this? Just to prove further that there is no evidence to prove your case. We're almost at the point where the prosecution has rested their case, and I still have not heard one piece of evidence to convince me that Karen Reed, or not even just Karen Reed, anybody hit John O'Keefe with their car. Period.
she did the chip off, I've not spoken with her since.
You have a moment, John?
Yes.
All right, so that's enough with the vehicle. So again, they couldn't retrieve anything. Did I mark down this timestamp? I know we had it in the beginning of the stream. Let me see if I click this one. Nope. It's going to bring me somewhere else. Okay, I want to get to text messages for a little bit. Here we go.
Sure, if I can just start you out on
And then we're gonna
page 1.
recap and close out this
I'm gonna bring that
video.
up.
So this is
Now, with
after the
respect
hot
to,
mic
what's on the
moment.
screen, portion that you can see, do you recognize this, sir?
Yes, I do.
I've got for you at Exhibit 48.
Yes.
Now, within this particular, from the perspective of
This is
phone,
all
his
from
phone, is that correct?
Facebook Messenger, which I think is interesting. I mean, I don't know. Some people think it's weird. I have certain friends who exclusively message me through Facebook Messenger. That's just their line of communication. I have a group chat with my siblings on Instagram. That's how we communicate. Me and my wife text. That's how we communicate. Sometimes we also communicate through Instagram by just sharing reels and stuff like that. So I don't think it's that weird. I think it's just generational. I know that they're both in their 40s, I believe. So, and I feel like that fits the demographic. So I don't think it's weird. But also,
Yes, it is.
too, where's the?
So there will be blue bubbles.
Did they
and
not
green
talk
bubbles,
it
is that
all
correct as well?
over
Yes.
text?
And so who, as far as the blue bubbles are concerned, who is speaking in that?
The blue bubbles will be from Miss Reed, and the green bubbles are from Officer O'Keefe.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if you could please scroll down. Now, with respect to what's contained on this page 1 at the bottom, if you could read the date and the time and indicate who is speaking. and what
Okay,
is said there.
so they're just
30
trying to
PM.
say,
Hello?
hey, hi, You can tell, like, with the high, that's the I'm pissed high. Some people just speak like that, but that's how I know when my wife is pissed. And there's no, like, hey with a double Y.
Recognize that to be, sir.
These are the native chats, native messages from John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
So these are just specifically broken down as far as the chats between Mr. O'Keefe's phone and Ms. Reed's phone, correct?
Correct.
And as far as your review
Okay,
of both
so
of the
this is
extractions from both of those phones, the material contained within Mr. O'Keefe's phone is
Or is this
consistent
all
with the
through
material contained in
Facebook, though? I'm
defendant's phone,
so
correct?
Yes, that's correct.
confused.
You want me to approach?
Yes.
I'll move the seat to introduce the next exhibit.
Okay.
Okay. So they're gonna pull this up. And this is like Lally's big moment in court, guys, where he's like, this is gonna piece everything together today. When it's like you've literally wasted the court's time trying to prove that Jen McCabe didn't search or didn't delete the Google search at 2:27 a.m. And then hanging Karen Reed's dirty laundry for a room full of people who don't know her for everybody to read and make her look like she's crazy when she's just going through normal relationship pains. This is what you're gonna read, and let me know what you guys think too. If you agree, if you don't agree, does this prove motive? I don't think so.
And now, True Guarino, do you recognize what's up on screen as the next exhibit, sir? Let's go on, I'm sorry, if you could scroll down just a little bit.
So this is all from the
Yes.
Cellebrite
And
extraction.
again, from this first page, if you could, the blue bubble is from Ms. Reed, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Being from Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could, again, read from this first page as far as date, time, who was speaking, and what is it?
At 9:49 a.m., Karen says, "You've really hurt me this time." 10:02 a.m., "I'm sorry. This is, sorry, it's kind of read. I'm sorry, this has been an issue with me for 8 years. It physically hurts me to see everyone else in their life do things for them, and I'm forced to always be the bad guy."
So it seems like the biggest pain points from what we've seen in previous testimony, what we've heard is that the crux of their problems in their relationship seem to be centered around the kids. It seemed like Karen Reed didn't want kids. John O'Keefe's sister passed away. And he adopted her children, which is just extremely upsetting because now those kids they were made to testify. That wasn't filmed, and I didn't cover that at this time on this channel. I hadn't created it yet to go over their testimony, but this is just, again, more, I don't know, just more dragging people for having normal relationship pains. She didn't want to have kids. She didn't want to have to be a mom, but she did the best she could. And John O'Keefe was also struggling because he's suddenly a dad for 8 years. His sister's gone, and he's, probably trying to figure out what the next steps in his life are too, and whether or not he wants to continue with, building a future with Karen or not.
At 10:09 a.m., Karen says, "I am not the same as everybody else. Most of the time, I try to do what is healthy/smart for them. More importantly, I try to support you and what you need. You just lashed out at me and said terrible things. I don't know how you've gotten to this point with me, but I'm just trying my hardest. You made the point. I made your point and continue to beat me down. I have a lot going on too. Physically, I'm falling apart and trying to get answers and help."
If I could stop you there, sir.
It almost reminds me like these are text messages that like
Sir, if I could direct you to page 5.
a defense team would pull, like trying to prove that their client didn't do it. Like they were almost like, it almost comes off like it almost feels like they're showing John O'Keefe in a bad light or they're trying to. I don't know. Like, I don't know what this proves or what this does.
Okay.
Sorry, bottom of page 4.
All right.
Like they're trying to make her out to be a
Sorry, move
psycho
on to
and
page 4
like him to be a jerk.
Speaking what is said and
And
the date and time.
it just seemed
Karen
like
says to John
people who are
at
going through it.
1:21 p.m. on the 28th, "Maybe you can call someone."
If you could continue on through page 5, sir.
On the 28th at 1:46 p.m., John says, "Like who?" On 1:47 p.m., "What time are you coming here?" And then there is, at 2:05, there's a message, but no content.
And the next message at 2:06, sir.
Yes, 2:06 from Karen. "I don't know what time. Feel kind of out of it. Just trying to clear my head."
I wonder what those
2:06
messages
p.m.
are where there's like
John writes
nothing
back,
there,
okay.
like he deleted it or
2:06 p.m. again. Karen says, text me later when you guys
it's like an
settle in
accidental
later.
text.
Oh, sorry, text me when you guys settle in later. John says, sure, at 2:06 p.m. again. Karen says at 2:16, I feel pretty shitty about this. Feel pretty shitty about how this morning went down. I know you said sorry, but it really stung, especially when I've been trying pretty hard lately. I feel like a loser turning around, just coming back over after everything you said.
If I could ask you to continue on to page 7, sir.
I mean, yeah, if you get into a fight with somebody, like you're not gonna want to like, hey, you just treated me like a jerk. Like, I don't really want to talk to you either right now. Like, unless we can talk this through and work it out, and that's what I'm getting from this. But the thing I wanted to call out too is like the date. So this is all on 128, and that's why the prosecution's gonna show a lot on 128 and not really so much on 129. In like the hours leading up to, like there are some text messages, but nothing that really stands out.
2:17 p.m. John says, not sure what else you want me to do. I said I'm sorry and I was out of line. If you prefer to stay home, I totally get it.
Like, it's
Karen
also
replies back at
respectful
2:17,
conversation.
things in my own life have been difficult too, you know. John writes back at 2:17, I know. At 2:25 p.m., tell me if you're interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been
Trying
like
to
this.
paint her as
From Karen.
paranoid. Because that was the whole thing with the Aruba testimony too, is like, oh, Karen's really jealous, and that's why she ran him over. Because she can't stand anybody being with John O'Keefe but her. But I think they're just trying to figure stuff out.
At 2:25, John responds back, nope. Things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that? Those are 2:26.
They're very respectful in their
2:29, he writes, kids are
conversation.
here,
There's no
not
like
in the mood to talk.
FUs or anything
How
aggressive.
does the defendant respond to that at the bottom of page 8?
So you're not into it anymore. That's fine.
wish you
But I
would
don't want to
just
keep trying,
like, none
and you
of
keep treating me
that.
like this. At 2:29 p.m.
If I could direct you to the next page 9.
It's just an honest conversation.
Mr. Reed says, I'm
Had
trying
these
to hug and kiss you this morning, and you whack me in the face with a pillow. At 2:29. At 2:30, she says, last night you're basically like, yeah, what about? When we talk about the future. So why don't you just admit you're not into it so much anymore? At 2:30, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was at 2:30, John says, not how it went down, but okay.
Now does Ms. Reed respond to that?
Can you please admit your head is out of the game with us?
If you could, sir, please continue on to top page 10.
Okay. At 2:32 p.m., sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not as quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you apparently, from John. And then John again at 2:32. Oh my God, stop calling.
Okay, stop you there for just a moment, sir. With regard to January 28th, you were also able to extract a report specifically in regard to calls received by Mr. O'Keefe on that day.
Yes, I was.
We on that date into the next date of January 29th.
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So yeah, when Karen's upset, she like that's all it proves is like she wants to get on the phone. She wants to talk about it. She doesn't want to like text her. And I get it. Like, you're in a fight. You're having a heavy conversation. It's either like meet face to face or like jump on a call. And John O'Keefe doesn't want to talk. That's like his response to the conversation and arguments. He's very deflective. Like, I want to be on my own. I don't want to be bothered. I want to cool down. Leave me alone. When I'm ready to talk, I'll talk. That's the vibe I get from it. And that's literally my exact dynamic in my relationship with my wife.
Ready the call log from January 28th and the 29th, is that correct?
Okay. The 28th
Yes,
to the
from
29th. This is
28th
the
at
call
9:19
log.
a.m. to the 29th at 6:00.
So we just went from like this text message thread that literally didn't establish anything other than they're having a conversation about whether or not they want to keep seeing each other to let's jump to the call log when John O'Keefe literally said, stop calling me.
3 a.m.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm also seeking to introduce him.
Like, I would have liked to have seen where that rest of the conversation continued. If it led to anything. There's also a lot of aggressive sighing throughout this day of court. Mainly by this witness.
Karen Reed's call log from January 29th at 12:33 a.m. to January 29th at 6:03 a.m.
And those are specifically calls between
So
the
they just
defendant
jumped
and
from the
Mr. O'Keefe,
20th to
correct?
the 29th.
Yes, that is correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm also seeking to introduce him as the next exhibit. No objection.
Now, Trooper Guarino,
Very
from the
aggressive
text messages you were
buying.
just testifying from, Mr. O'Keefe indicates OMG stopped calling at 2:32 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, from your review of those
Like, did they
call logs,
stop
how many
talking?
times did the defendant call Mr. O'Keefe on January 28th from approximately 9:19 a.m. to about 2:58 p.m.?
There's 18 calls from 9:19 to about
It's like-
2:59 p.m.
I just want to go
Those
back
calls are
for a
listed within-
second. Like, where are we at? 647. Like, when he on the OMG. Sick of arguing. Oh, OMG, stop calling. So this is on the 28th at 2:32. Is that PM or AM? I think it's PM. So, like, are you telling me like they didn't speak at all? Like over text at all, like from 2:30 the previous day to 9 a.m. or whenever they're saying now? We're on 647.
Within those records, there's various as far as rejected, missed, or answered.
Like,
things of
that's
that
the
nature.
part I want to see
Yes,
in
that
the
is correct.
text
How
thread.
many of them are rejected?
11.
How many of them are missed?
Uh,
I'm
How
gonna.
many of them within those records?
18 calls from
Approximately 9:19 a.m. How many times did the defendant call Mr. O'Keefe on January 28th from approximately 9:19 a.m. to about 2:58 p.m.?
There's 18 calls from 9:19 to about 2:59 p.m.
Okay.
Those calls are listed within those
18.
records as various as far as rejected, missed, or answered, or things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How many of them are rejected?
11.
How many of them are missed?
4.
And how many are answered?
3.
So I imagine he
Now, following
rejected,
that,
missed them,
text message
then
at
eventually
2:32
answered.
p.m. from Mr. O'Keefe to the defendant asking her to stop calling him. Does the defendant keep calling?
Yes, she does.
And at some point, does Mr. O'Keefe call Ms. Reed back?
Yes, at about 3 p.m. on the 28th. Double check.
Thanks.
But didn't that say? Didn't he just say on the 29th? Like, didn't Lally say that? I mean, maybe he misspoke, but okay, then that lines up with that time. That's why I was so
May I
confused.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Green, I can take each of the call logs. I want you to hold on a second.
Very aggressive.
And when you walk away, we can't hear you. And your voice went down. So keep your voice up. It's really important.
That's funny. I actually missed him laughing at that. So this is the judge just doing her thing, reprimanding Lally about not speaking loud enough. Like, you're the kid in school who's getting called down to the principal's office and you get in trouble for not
Attention back to page 10. on
not
the
being
text
a
message.
good kid.
With respect.
Okay, so Mr. Lally, when you put your head down and when you walk away, we can't hear you. And so there won't be a record of this. So you have to keep your voice up.
I will do, Your Honor. My
Well, you just said you just put your head down and your voice went down. So keep your voice up. It's really important you do so.
Everybody's just
Trooper
like,
Green, I'm turning your attention
dude,
back to page 10 of the text messages.
why did you become a lawyer?
Response to Mr. O'Keefe at 2:32.
Yes, so 2:32 p.m. She says, "Why would you start with me this morning?" And then followed up by 2:33. You're setting me up to fail.
If I could turn your
Okay,
attention to page
so-
11 and ask you to continue from there.
That's
Ms.
after
Reed
the,
says
oh
you
my God,
started,
stop
excuse me, you
calling.
started a number of fights from your end. John, and that's at 2:33. At 2:33, John writes back, "I've explained it a few times already. Not doing it again.
And how does the defendant respond to that?
So you're not into this anymore." And then John says, "Not into fighting all the time. Correct." That's at 2:34 p.m.
No, so
If
he
I turn your
doesn't
attention
say
to
like,
the
"Oh,
top
I'm
of
over
the-
you." Like, I don't want to be
Yes,
with you.
2:34. Ms. Reed says, "If you tell me you're interested in
I'm
someone else, you will never hear from me
tired
again.
of
You can have all the
fighting
space in the
with
world." John writes back that there's no content at 2:34. And then at 2:34, she says, "Then stop starting with me."
How does Mr. O'Keefe respond to that?
At 2:34, he writes back, "I'm not answering. Stop calling."
And if you could,
But like,
if I
what
could
is
turn your
that
attention to-
text? Like, why would she follow up with that message? Like, from that blank message? Like, was it a GIF or like an emoji? Like, I don't know. Or was it, maybe it was an audio message? I'm so curious.
top of page 13.
Did I do that too?
Ms.
I
Reed says, "Can you please
send
answer
audio
after how you treated me
messages all the
earlier?"
time.
John responds back at 2:35, "Kaylee is right here." Ms. Reed says,
me.
"You're starting a rage with me out of nowhere, and then you tell me you're sick of fighting with me." At 2:35. She writes at 2:38, "I'm going to grab a drink in a bit."
If I could direct you to the top of page 14, sir.
She says, "Can you answer, please?" At 2:38. He writes back at 2:39, "No, Karen, I'm not sure why you need to announce that you're going drinking. Have fun." Karen writes back at 2:40, "Seeing if you want to meet me later. Can you please call me?" Right after that.
And again, if I could direct you to the top of page 15.
I wonder if that's when she
John writes back at 2:40,
asked
"Have to take him to
Brian
the doctor. He has
Higgins
practice."
to meet her.
Ms. Reed writes back,
Right.
"Yeah, 5 minutes." John writes back at 2:43, "My father just walked in." Karen writes back, "Okay, can you please call me for 2 minutes?" At 2:44.
The top of page 16, sir.
244, John writes back, not right now. Karen writes back, I'm there when anyone else needs me at 244. 246, yes, John, you gave me utter grief this morning. I'd like you to call me for a minute.
And the last one from that page, sir.
Yeah. 247, I've been trying to get over the hump with is arguing, and now you tell me you're not into things. And if you don't want to fight weekly, but fly off the handle at 8 a.m. with me, like you're setting me up to fail.
Sir, if I could draw your attention to page 42. And sir, if I could ask you to start reading from the top of page 42.
Yep. At 7:41 p.m., Karen writes, okay, let me know if you end up leaving. John writes back at 7:42, why?
You just,
Now
like,
you're not coming?
Jump.
Karen writes back, I'm waiting for the plumber. Actually think he's in the driveway. 7:42. John says 7:43, we're taking Mike's car, so I'm relying on
Okay,
you.
so this is like this is the day of John O'Keefe was found in the early morning hours of January 29th. So that's why they're spending the whole day on these text messages. But I feel like it just jumped from like 2 to like 3 o'clock to 7:42. So
For a ride home if he leaves. Karen writes back at 7:43, he's not going home after. John writes back at 7:43, 8 on a Friday. He may have to get Michael. And you have a plumber coming over at 8. Knowing me and Papa could have handled it. Good luck. And that was at 7:44.
So now, like, they go from fighting to him being like, well, why didn't you ask me why didn't you tell me you needed help? I could have done the job. Like, so does that really sound like somebody who's like she's lost him completely? Like, I feel like these are two people who they're just that couple where no matter what, like, they'll always go back and forth, but they'll always end up back together. That's what I get from that. Like, you don't say that if you're like, I don't want anything to do with this person. And then she's the crazy psycho, right? Who runs him over. She's the whack job because she lost him. Like, I just don't see what this proves.
If I could direct your attention to page 49.
Okay.
If I could ask you to start from the page 49, sir.
8:29 p.m. Yeah, but he lives right down the road. John writes back at 8:30. Karen, the storm is going to be intense. Can't drive. 8:30. She writes back, okay, well, if he can't, he can't. John writes back, I'll do it Monday. Karen responds at 8:31.
So they're already making
this
plans.
problem on Monday. John writes back, plan on being there. Karen writes back at 8:32. I'd like to know, I can take a hot shower here if I need to. John writes back, figured you'd be in Kansas until Monday.
So, like, he's saying they go from being in a fight to him saying, well, I thought you were going to be at my place this weekend because they don't live together. I didn't know. I assumed that they live together, but they don't live together. She has her own house. So like, again,
If I could direct you to the top of next page 51.
John, I'm getting off my phone. Let me know what you're doing. Karen writes back at 8:33. I think the four of us together is toxic to this relationship. Would like to limit it. And then says, you've said so yourself
the
for
four
probably
of
a
us
year now.
meaning
And John writes back
her,
at 8:33. Blizzard
the
tomorrow.
two
Nobody's
kids
going
and
anywhere.
him.
Sir, if I could direct you to the top of page 52.
Karen says, maybe I'll come back late tonight. Bad snow is in the early a.m. That's at 8:35. And again, 8:35. I'll head up there in a few minutes. Let me know if you leave. John replies back, sure. And then the next one's not until 12:55 a.m. on the 29th. I'm going home.
And the I'm going home is from the defendant. 12:55 a.m.
So
Yes, that is correct.
12:55 a.m. She texts, I'm going home. Okay. Cool. This helps with timeline. So I guess she was at John O'Keefe's because I believe it's understood that she was at John O'Keefe's after she dropped him off at like 12:41, and then she's like, I'm going home. So I guess she means I'm not going to keep waiting around for you at your house. So I'm going to go home to my house. That's the way I'm understanding it. So, like, why would she, like, text him, tell him that if she ran him over? Like, if she knew she ran him over and hit him, why would she text that? I mean, I guess you could argue, like, well, that's part of the whole plan, blah, blah, blah. But, like, that's not where my mind's going initially.
And if I could direct your attention to the top of page 53.
Yes, 12:55 again. See you later. At 1:02, your kids are cucking alone. 1:29, 1:04 a.m. I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone.
Thanks, sir.
So I guess
I approach the
Yes.
I guess he said like I'm gonna meet up with you later. I don't know what like I really want to know like what was the point of them going back like going to Brian Albert's house? Like if that was under John's assistance and like Karen didn't want to go for whatever. Like I just want to know. And like the only way we would probably find out is if she testified, but it sounded like from my impression, he wanted to go, he wanted to hang out longer. Maybe they did get into like a little bit of a tiff or continue talking. You know, you're drinking, your feelings come out, whatever. And she's like, you know what? I don't want to keep hanging out. Like maybe she doesn't like them. Like she's like, I don't want to keep hanging out with the cop buddies. I always feel left out. Like which I can understand. I'm just speculating. This is just how I'm kind of interpreting the conversation because we don't know. And maybe he was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna stay for a little bit. I'm gonna take an Uber," or maybe he was gonna get a ride home and then meet her back there. Like it sounds like that was the plan. He was gonna hang out for a little bit, then he was gonna let her know I'm on my way back because she was planning to stay the weekend. It sounds like. And then she's like, "Okay, well, you know what? Like I'm tired of waiting around for you, so I'm going home." And then she goes home in Mansfield. And that's that. So I think this is getting close to
You are unmuted.
I think this is getting close to when they end court.
Yes.
Okay.
More
Do you recognize those, sir?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The single page is Karen Reed to Laura Sullivan phone calls, or I should say, yep, calls from Laura Sullivan to Karen Reed. And the other one is Karen Reed and Laura Sullivan's chat messages.
What's contained in those documents, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you were able to extract from the defendant's phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
so this is from Karen Reed's phone,
No objection.
whereas the other texts were from John and Keith's phone.
no.
I believe. Okay, I'm marking that. Let's skip ahead.
Keith phone call.
Oh, I think they're just
Communications with
marking.
Aaron O'Keefe.
Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yeah,
Objection,
they're-
Mr. Yannetti, right?
I think they're just like marking all of this stuff so that they can go in. I don't actually know if he asks.
Calls.
Yeah, Jen McCabe calls.
Materials from her phone.
Yes.
Whole goddamn binder. Yep. I just want to make sure there's nothing else that we miss here. Nope. Yeah, I think.
Holiday, so you're not in session. I know
Yeah.
there's supposed to be some big heat wave this week. I really appreciate that will hold the not
The court, please.
read anything about this case. Please disregard it. Let us know. We'll see you Thursday night.
All rise for the
Just
Thanks
have
for
your
sending-
contact. So feel free to dress comfortably. We'll plan on seeing you on Thursday. If that changes, the court officers have your contact.
That was the only other thing I wanted to call out. Yeah, so this was the end of court. It seems like Lally is definitely not finished with direct, though I don't think he's too far off from finishing it. He wants to go through her conversations with Laura Sullivan. I also think with some of John O'Keefe's friends, family, likely after she found him. And we're probably not going to get to that until tomorrow. But then the judge was like, if anything changes. So I guess maybe we have court tomorrow, maybe we don't, or today. Either way, we'll have a video on Friday. If not covering this stuff, maybe just talking more about just kind of recapping the week, or maybe diving into something different just to mix things up a little bit. I know Justin Timberlake got arrested this week for DWI. He's expected to be in court next month. So maybe we'll do some coverage of that if we don't have any Karen Reed stuff. Otherwise, if you guys enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, turn the notification bell on. As I do more and more of these videos, I'll have more of like the cool graphics to point you to things, because I know sometimes people need to know where to find things. I'm the same exact way. But just to quickly recap, so today we heard from Ian Whiffen. He was the Cellebrite expert, the decoding project manager, I think it was. Project manager? Yeah, project manager for Cellebrite. He mainly talked about the Jen McCabe Google search. That was the big part of the testimony that we got out of, which was very underwhelming because it just further proved that it's possible somebody did delete those records and there are missing records. So I don't know how that helped the prosecution at all. And it was sometimes it was dry, boring, a little hard to follow and understand. But I'm not a tech person, so maybe for you tech nerds, you could understand that a little bit better. And then we got into Trooper Guarino, Nick Guarino. He was the forensic and cell phone data expert for the state police. He talked a little bit about how he wasn't able to retrieve any data from Karen Reed's vehicle, which is just huge. I mean, we didn't get anything from Trooper Paul about anything relevant to whether or not John O'Keefe was actually struck by a vehicle, period. And that's how he ended up dead in the cold in the snow on January 29th. And then he got into a little bit of John O'Keefe's phone extractions. I think that's it in terms of the state's direct on that. I don't think we're gonna go through any more of John O'Keefe's stuff. I would love to know, like, was he talking about this stuff with his friends, like over I don't know. Seems like we're gonna get into Karen Reed's phone next. Some of her calls after John O'Keefe was found. So next video should be interesting. We have a full day, hopefully, Thursday in court, and we'll have, like I said, a video after that. But once again, welcome to Alexa's Room. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.